Alright. This was on the same day I had the Philly cheesesteak, and I wanted a lighter dinner. And so I started off making, it was either going to be a topping or a side dish. I just used it as a side dish. And it's like a chili vinegar cucumber dish, and I make it differently every single time. I think there's lots of variations for this dish, but I just use whatever I have at the time. And the beginning steps are the same. Cut it however you want, and add a lot of salt to it. And I'm going to wash off the salt anyways, but it's just there to change the texture of the cucumber, so it's slightly softer and kind of bendable. And most of the time I cut them into big chunks, but this time I decided on sort of medium-ish slices, maybe like a centimeter thick. And I usually get impatient while waiting for the water to come out of this, but it will taste better in the end if I wait maybe like the full 30 minutes or maybe a little bit more. And after that, and it's washed with water, I add Chinese black vinegar, honey, some soy sauce, and a few jarred sauce. So this is like spicy soybean paste. And then in that second jar is it's chili oil, but it's the soybean one. I usually don't get the standard, the crispy one. I usually get the chunkier ones. And then instead of garlic, I just use sambal hot sauce because it has a lot of garlic in it. And you could probably add a bunch of other stuff to make it taste good. I think the last thing I add in here is white pepper and sesame oil. Some people like it sweeter, so you could add anything prepackaged that's sweet. I could have probably added something else salty. This mixture is less salty than I thought it was going to be. I ended up adding a little bit of soy sauce in the end. I should have just used salt. And just sort of incorporate this together. And it's easier to use your hands, especially when it's these thin slices.
No.
And this dish always tastes better the next day or a couple days after you make it, and you just leave it in the fridge. And I feel like I'm a little bit short on seasoning, but it turned out okay. Even the next day, it turned out okay, and more water comes out of the cucumber. Give it a little taste. And just seasoning. I should just use salt here, but whatever. And then the main part of the dish, there's a tiny bit of prep work. It's just scallions and ginger. And I don't use all of this, but I use most of it. And this is probably too much ginger. I always use too much. But I don't mind raw ginger, like having a large amount of it. And I don't even mince the ginger, I just cut it into thin slices, or thin strips. Now you will taste. And then to assemble, I use just regular dehydrated wheat noodles. So these are dried but not fried wheat noodles. And they take about 4 to 5 minutes to cook. And for this dish in particular, I recommend cooking it fully. And the sauce is this first jar is 50% sesame paste, 50% peanut butter, and there's nothing else in it. And it's kind of hard to get out, but I like to use a lot. And then I also add, this is like sesame Kewpie dressing. You could just probably use Kewpie mayonnaise, but this is kind of like cheating because there's egg in it, so it makes it more stable. And then I add some packaged chicken stock. And to make this taste better, you could probably use dried shrimp, dried scallop, and maybe even, yeah, I think those two would make it taste good. And once it's drained, and make sure it's thoroughly cooked or else it'll be too thick, I mix this together as best as I can. It's probably easier to just microwave this for 10 seconds just to loosen it up a little bit. But even though it was cold, it still formed the emulsion. And initially it will look like it's not going to come together. And I'm always scared every single time that this is not going to come together. But on low heat and with a tiny bit of water added to the noodles, it will eventually form the sauce. And you could add the vegetables earlier. I don't mind just eating the scallions and ginger pretty much raw. Oh, I also forgot to add the sambal for garlic. And this was maybe slightly thicker than what I wanted, but it still tastes pretty good. And this also tastes great if you eat it cold the next day, which I didn't eat all of this, so it was a nice mini breakfast. I add the vegetables at the very, very end. And I need to strop this knife, or I did strop this knife after because not everything was cut all the way through, but that's fine. And this is the final dish. I think normally the sauce is sweeter. I just realized I didn't add anything sweet to the mixture. I could have used like honey or sugar hoisin sauce or something to make it sweeter. But it still tasted pretty good. And the pickles, could have used it as a topping, but I just left it in this big bowl. Not really a stellar combination, these two dishes, but it's still somewhat satisfying to eat. And the cucumber dish lasts long enough for me to eat with like random rice dishes throughout the week. Sometimes I forget to take it out and I get sad because it doesn't last forever, so I have to eat it within like a week or a little bit longer. Anyways, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.